how can I, as a leader, how can I, as a business owner, make better choices? So if we can clarify our vision, friends, the choices become easier. Remember, you're free to choose, but you're not free from the consequences of your choice. So the bigger decision that I have to make, the more wise counsel I seek. If we take the time as we're making decisions, we can reflect on the decisions or the choices we made in the past that were prevalent, that yielded the outcomes that we desired versus those that didn't. Each of us throughout this process, we have an intuition. We are built with God's Spirit in us, and He's going to guide us to the right decision. But oftentimes we don't listen. Friends, it's been said that the choices we make, not the chances we take, determine our destiny. The choices, or decisions, if you will. Years ago, I heard a quote by Woody Allen that said, "In the end, we are the sum total of our choices." We're the sum total of the decisions that we made in life. Here I am at age 45, and I am the direct recipient of all the choices, of all the decisions I've made in the past 45 years. And like all of us, I've made some good choices, some good decisions, and I've made some very poor choices. A few weeks back, I was traveling to Arkansas with a group of hillbillies, and we were going snow goose hunting. We had a blast over there. And on the trip over, about a 7-hour trip, one of the passengers in the truck said, "I need to make better choices with my life." Now, in that moment, we were talking about his particular problem, but I've been meditating on that sentence. How can I, as a leader, how can I, as a business owner, make better choices? Well, one of the first things I looked at is, well, how many choices do I make on average? I got to start trying to count the choices, and oh my goodness, I could not keep track. So I did some research, and I found that the Journal of Consumer Research estimates that the average adult, you and me, make about 35,000 decisions a day. That means we make roughly about 1 million decisions a month, or 13 million decisions in a year. That's the average adult. I even challenge that to think that we business owners are making perhaps twice as many decisions as the average non-business owner. I mean, think about all the things that we have flying at us, and we're having to make knee-jerk reactions and decisions and choices day in, day out. And yet, if the statement is true, the decisions that we make today determine our destiny. It's incumbent upon us as business owners to learn to make better choices. So how do we do it? I submit there's 10 ways that we can make better choices. The first is that we need to clarify our vision. The last 5-6 episodes, I've been dealing with vision. I've been dealing with it from every different angle I can think about as a business owner, because the older I get, and as I'm trying to teach people how to build 8-figure, 9-figure businesses, the vision that we have for our life, the vision that we have for our gifts, the vision that we have that's God-given for our business is ultimately the direction we're headed. So if we can clarify our vision, friends, the choices become easier. Now, I'm not going to dive much deeper into that point because we talked about it so much for the last few episodes, but we do need to clarify our vision. The second thing we can do is we can gather as much information needed. For years, I've said a statement, and I don't think I've been accurate in the statement. I made the statement to gather as much information as I need to make the decision, and then delay the decision as long as possible. I'm not sure that's an accurate statement. But I do believe that we need to gather as much information as possible. Now, whether or not we delay, we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So if we're looking at a decision, it's incumbent upon us to look at all the different angles possible for us to make an educated decision or educated choice. So I believe we need to gather as much information as possible. And then number 3, we need to consider alternatives. How many times have you been approached by a customer, by a team member, by a vendor, by a family member, and been given a 1 or 2 choices, an and or an or choice? Like there's only right and wrong. There's only 1 and 2. Friends, if we're considering alternatives, I have to submit there's always more than 2 choices. Ors or ands don't work. We should always seek to create as many options as possible. So when we're presented with a choice, challenge the presenter to find a 3rd or 4th option. I practice this in my own businesses. Whenever an employee comes and they said, "Hey, Justin, we need to make a decision and we have this choice or this choice." I'll look at it, I'll think about it, and I'll say, "What's our other options?" "Well, there are no other options." "Yes, there are. Come back and find me 2 more options." And whenever you press into a team member and you're training them through delegation, through authority, you press in that, it's amazing how many other options become available, and now you're able to make better choices. So the third one is to consider alternatives. Now, the fourth is to look at the pros and cons. It's like, Justin, this is pretty simple. I approach the pros and cons of a decision slightly different than many others. Remember, you're free to choose, but you're not free from the consequences of your choice. So when I look at the pros and the cons, I look at a sheet of paper and I'll say, hey, I've got a big decision to make. I want to put everything I can that's a pro to this decision on the left side of the sheet of paper, and everything that is a con to this decision on the right side of the paper. But I take another step. About halfway down the sheet of paper, for those of you listening, I draw a horizontal line. On the top of the line, I'll put my short-term results, and on the bottom of the line, I'll put my long-term results. You see, I'm constantly, whenever I'm making a decision, trying to figure out how is this going to impact me in the present and in the future. How is it going to impact me over the next year and over the next 10 years? Many times, the decisions I'm trying to make will impact me negatively in the short period of time, but will impact me positively in the long period of time. And if I don't separate the length or the time duration between my pros and my cons, oftentimes I could be led to make a poor decision in the now that'll hurt me in the future. So the fourth thing I often would submit for us to make better decision is to look at our pros and our cons. There is a fifth thing, and this to me is fundamental. You want to pit your final choice against your personal values. You know, each of us have personal values. I've mentioned in the previous episode, I have several values that I wrote out years ago. One of them that I get a lot of giggles from is turn the turtle. Go back and listen to the previous episodes. You'll learn why that makes people laugh and where it came from. But I have nonetheless identified my key values. So whenever I'm looking at my pros and my cons, I'm trying to determine the decision I'm about to make. Is it violating my ethos? Is it violating my personal values? And if it does, then we stop. Now, once I understand the decision, I've gone through the exercise of looking at alternatives, outlining my pros and my cons, and then pitting that decision against my personal values. The next thing I'm going to do is to seek input from an outside counsel or seek input from somebody who has wisdom. Solomon is recorded to be the wisest man who ever lived. And he made this statement in Proverbs 11:14 that said, in a multitude of counselors, there is safety. So the bigger decision that I have to make, the more wise counsel I seek. The more wise counsel I'm able to pit my decision, my values, my pros and my cons, my alternatives against wise counsel, and I find safety in my decision making. There is a cautionary tale though. David, who was Solomon's father, wrote the first book of Psalms. The first book of Psalms, Psalms 1:1 says, blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth at the seat of the scornful. What is he saying? If I seek counsel from somebody, they need to have a biblical or a eternal worldview. If I seek counsel, they have to align with my ethos. If I get counsel from somebody that doesn't view my decision through the lens of the Creator, then oftentimes I could be wanting. Oftentimes, I'm not going to be blessed directly from Scripture. So whenever I'm seeking input from others, I'll seek wisdom from multiple people, but I also seek biblical wisdom. I seek people who understand the Creator's intention and understands the decision through that of a righteous individual, somebody who has strong faith and believes in our God and everything He's done for us. So I'm going to seek input. So after I've sought the counsel of some godly individuals that I view as being full of wisdom, that's not the end of my journey. Number 7 for me is to listen to my internal prompting. The scripture says, and your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, quote, this is the way, walk in it, when you turn to the right and when you turn to the left. In other words, God has designed us that He can speak through us. When we hear the wise counsel, He also is speaking through us through His Spirit. But many times, friends, I don't stop to listen. I listen to my wise counsel, and then I run off without giving a moment for the Creator Himself to speak through me through His God-given ability to my intuition. And so I ask myself the question, why is it? Why is it that I don't pause long enough? Many times it's because I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I'm working. I'm moving. I'm shaking. I'm having fun. I'm doing podcasts. I'm getting on video. I'm talking to people. So I'm too busy, and I won't stop talking. yours truly will not stop talking. I'm reminded of the story in the Bible where Moses is leading the children of Israel out of Egypt, and he comes to the Red Sea. And as he comes to the Red Sea, there's two mountains on both sides of this magnificent army with millions of people behind him. And the Egyptians are coming with their chariots and with the intent of killing the Israelites. And God tells Moses to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. So Moses commanded everybody to be quiet. And in that moment, it got quiet, deathly quiet, and God parted the waters. And then he says, Moses, go forward. You see, oftentimes I don't pause. I'm so busy. I'm having so much fun producing and building businesses and helping people build businesses that I don't pause for my own intuition, the God himself to speak through me to give me clarity of my decisions. To me, one of the best places I go to get clarity is whenever I have a hard decision, I'll literally go sit in the woods. In fact, a person I dearly care about, he said, man, Justin, anytime you get a gun in your hands and you go play in the woods, you come back a new person. Why is that? It's because I have a chance to stand still, think about what's going on, listen to the counsel, look at my pros and cons, and allow that moment of meditation for Almighty to speak through me so I can get clarity of decision. Now, even in that area, once I have that prompting, I'll go forward. But there's some other things we can do. We can practice decision-making skills. You say, Justin, how do you practice decision-making skills? Obviously, you can use some sort of framework like a SWOT analysis, but I like to keep things fun. One of my favorite ways to improve my decision-making skills is through the simple game of chess. Think about this. The game of chess begins with an infinite number of moves. There are multiple pieces, white and black on the board, and there are an infinite number of moves. And for every move that you make on the chessboard, it eliminates options. And so the moves become less and less infinite. They become finite. The simple game of chess is to create as many options as possible while eliminating the options of your opponent. That's all chess is. And if you think about it in terms of a business world, what are we doing? We're making decisions to expand our options. We're making decisions so that if we find the decision we made was not correct or didn't yield the results we wanted, we can quickly divert and not have the checkmate experience. So to me, one of the ways that I can improve my decision-making skills is to simply play chess. There is maybe some other things that you could do yourself. Now, number 9 for me is reflect on past decisions. Man, I can tell you some humdingers I've made. I can tell you some decisions. When I look back, it's like, dude, what were you thinking? And you're like, I wasn't thinking. We've all been there, right? If we take the time as we're making decisions, we can reflect on the decisions or the choices we made in the past that were prevalent, that yielded the outcomes that we desired versus those that didn't. So we can look backwards, glean from our past experiences, and apply those to our present situation to try to avoid making the same pitfalls in our decision-making choices of the past. Now, number 10 is don't vacillate. As I mentioned earlier, I used to say, get as much information as you can and delay the decision as long as possible. I think I'm flawed in that statement. Let me say it. I know I'm flawed in that statement. Here's why. The faster your company is growing requires fast decision-making. If your company is moving slowly, man, you can take as much time as you want, make a decision. It's not going to make any outcome difference. However, if you're dealing with the type of companies that I love to coach, that I love to grow, which is hyper growth. In fact, I can't wait to show you how we're going to grow Financially Simple from a broke company to another 8-figure business in about 60 months. It is a methodology that works. So if I'm growing a fast-paced company like that, then I have to make fast decisions, which means I have to get as much information as possible and then to make the decision post-haste. You know, many times we as business owners, when we don't know what to do, we almost like that ostrich just sticks our head in the sand and we become paralyzed through analysis. Or the old saying goes, paralysis by analysis. Let me challenge you. Whenever it comes to make a decision, I would challenge you not to make a decision on your stressful days. For me, my Monday and my Fridays are hard days for me to make decisions. The best day for me is Thursday. By Thursday, all the fires are out. By Thursday, I've got my second win. I see the weekend ahead. I know it needs to be accomplished. And at that moment, I'm able to make decisions. So I have a decision day, which is Thursday. And I avoid making key decisions on hard days, which for me is Monday and Friday. You may have a different cadence, but I avoid making decisions on stressful days. I avoid making decisions whenever my mind is not emotionally correct, which happens a lot. Someone asked me, Justin, what's one of your weaknesses? I'll tell you. For me, I have very high highs and have very low lows, and they'll flip in an instant. Extremely introverted, but I'm extremely driven. And as a driven individual, I'm my own worst critic. For me, I can experience the euphoric outcome of a positive manner, high. And then the very next instant, one thing could turn around and I go to a low. That's one of my weaknesses. So if I know that about myself, whenever it comes to decision making, I'm not going to make a decision during those times. So those are 10 key points that I personally use to help make decisions. And if it's true that the sum total of our decisions in the past is where we're at today, then I think I've got some pretty good decision making, at least when it comes to business and building wealth. I'm reminded of a statement that J.K. Rowling said. She said, "It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities." I'll leave you with this, friends. Y'all go out and make it a great day.